What's going on, guys? Dawkbro back again. Hope you are fantastic today, and welcome to the extra video today because the news just in, guys. Five Nights at Freddy's The Twisted One's cover book and description has now been released on the Amazon store. So first, let's have a look at the cover. As you can see, it's terrifying. And as you can see, it's Nightmare from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. How interesting is that? You can obviously see it's Nightmare because it's black and it's got the red eyes and the sharp teeth in the shape of Fredbear. It has the wires as well, exactly the same as Nightmare in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which is interesting because Nightmare we thought was a nightmare, and I'm going to go on to that in a second and how this could solve some things about Five Nights at Freddy's 4, which is going to be interesting. So yeah, let's have a read of the description, guys. It looks very interesting. The highly anticipated sequel to the best-selling Five Nights at Freddy's, The Silver Eyes. It's been a year since the horrific events at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and Charlie is just trying to move on. Even with the excitement of a new school and a fresh start, she's still haunted by nightmares of a masked murderer and 4 gruesome animatronic puppets. Charlie thinks her ordeal is over, but when a series of bodies are discovered near her school bearing wounds that are disturbingly familiar, she finds herself drawn back into the world of her father's frightening creations. Something twisted is hunting Charlie, and this time, if it finds her, it's not letting her go. So yeah, that's really interesting. Already, I'm going to quote this again. She's still haunted by nightmares of a masked murderer and 4 gruesome animatronic puppets. Interesting, right? And as you can see, Nightmare is the cover of the book. So Nightmare will take a very interesting role in this novel. So it looks like she's having nightmares, but also something is following her in real life as well. So I think that's obviously going to be William Afton or Dave Miller in the prequel of Silver Eyes, because we don't really see him die, so who knows what we're going to see, or it's all in her head. We don't know. It's a horrific event what happened to her last year. You know, really bad. Some of her friends got killed. She seen a policeman get killed and stuff like that. She saw animatronics possessed. She nearly got killed by Dave and stuff like that. So it's really interesting. But yeah, it's interesting how Nightmare's there because of Five Nights at Freddy's 4. If this is her nightmare, and Nightmare is a nightmare and not a real animatronic at all, then it's really interesting about Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Because Five Nights at Freddy's 4 are the Nightmare animatronics. And Nightmare is in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the exact same one as the one in the cover. So the interesting concept now is, guys, in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, are we playing as Charlie? Or are we playing as someone who has witnessed the killer? And the killer in his nightmare and in Charlie's nightmare is Nightmare. It could be, because we didn't really know anything about Nightmare in Five Nights at Freddy's 4. We just thought it was just there as the opposite of Golden Freddy, like a Shadow Freddy. So I feel like this book's going to solve one of the Shadow animatronics, i.e. Shadow Freddy or Nightmare, because in the game file, I'm blabbering on a bit now, but in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the game files of Nightmare is Shadow Freddy. And we know Shadow Freddy from the past locations too. And also Shadow Bonnie. And it seems like this nightmare of a masked murderer. See how it says masked? I really do think that this is going to be very interesting. And 4 gruesome animatronic puppets. The animatronics in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 were terrifying. So, and it's interesting how it's puppets as well. Again, link back to Five Nights at Freddy's 4. the nightmare animatronics we don't see in the location, but we see them as plushies or puppets, you could say, too. So is this going to talk about Fredbear and Friends as well? You know, there's loads of things what I think are going to be solved in this novel, because we still don't know much about Five Nights at Freddy's 4. So, and we still don't know anything about Nightmare. So I feel like this book's going to solve more about Nightmare and the FNAF 4 nightmares, like who are we playing as in Five Nights at Freddy's 4 and stuff like that. Because, you know, we need to know. It's almost been 2 years since Five Nights at Freddy's 4, so we need some more info, and I'm glad that Scott's making it very interesting about Nightmare. It's so interesting, I can't even explain it, guys. I want to babble on for ages to tell you guys what I think this is. So I'm going to have a little bit of a prediction now, and if I get this wrong, I don't care. Okay? So, as you can see, Charlie's trying to move on, but she's having nightmares. I definitely think Nightmare, the Nightmare is the masked murderer. So, Nightmare is the masked murderer in her nightmares, okay? And the 4 other gruesome animatronics are Nightmare Freddy, Nightmare Bonnie, Nightmare Chica, and Nightmare Foxy. Those are the 4, okay? And Nightmare is the masked murderer, okay? It's interesting how he said 4 and not 5, because what about Nightmare Fredbear? That's interesting. Maybe the masked murderer is both Fredbear and Nightmare at the same time. So she has nightmares of both of them. Sometimes one night she has one of Fredbear and one night she has one as Shadow Freddy. That kind of makes sense in FNAF 4. You never see Fredbear, Nightmare Fredbear and Shadow Fredbear at the same time. You see them on different nights, which is interesting really when you think about it, because they are exactly the same. Like Golden Freddy and Shadow Freddy in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, they are the exact same animatronic. The exact same. It's the exact same model, the exact same pose, they're holding the mic the same. It's exactly the same. So, it makes sense, right? I feel like the shadow animatronics in all of the games are the killer in the suit as a nightmare or an hallucination. It seems like the killer has used the suit and it's turned wrong and dark and in a metaphor, guys. It doesn't literally walk in the suit and it changes colour. I meant it like the innocence of the suit has gone and it's been corrupted metaphorically, and it's turned dark and shadowy, and it's been tainted. It's not the same anymore. And I said this ages ago. That's what I thought Shadow Freddy was in Five Nights at Freddy's 2. It's trying to imply that the murderer did use this suit in the past, and that's what it is. The same with Shadow Bonnie as well. I feel like Shadow Bonnie represents the killer inside the suit, used it, and has now tainted it for killing kids. And it represents death, and it represents corruptness. And I feel like that's what Scott is going to hint about Nightmare in this novel. Charlie's nightmares of the masked murderer is Nightmare because the killer has used the Fredbear suit and has tainted it. It's not yellow anymore. It's rotten black, and it's corrupt, and it's tainted with. Does that make sense? I'm trying to make it make sense as much as I can. I feel like it does, because like I said, I'll quote it again, she's still haunted by nightmares of a masked murderer and 4 gruesome animatronic puppets. And the cover is Nightmare. And I just feel like that makes the most sense, that Nightmare is the killer. In her vision, in her nightmare, because the killer used the Fredbear suit, or the Golden Freddy suit, and it's tainted with it, and now it's her nightmare, which is interesting, very interesting. And that can still link back, whether it's Charlie or not in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, he witnessed someone in the Fredbear suit, and you never know, he saw something in the past. Don't you remember what you saw? I feel like that crying child witnessed someone get killed. while the killer was wearing the Fredbear suit, and that's why he had nightmares of Nightmare, because he has nightmares of the Fredbear suit as well, but he also has ones of Nightmare because the killer's used it, and that's when he knows the killer's in his nightmare. Does that make sense? I feel like this is going to be good, and hopefully that prediction is right, that Nightmare is the killer in her own imagination, and it explains why. It explains the reasons of the shadow animatronics, which then leads on to other things too. So it is solving things by piece by piece. Okay? So yeah, let me know what you guys think about my theory about Nightmare and the shadow and the origins of the shadow animatronics and that purple man. Not purple man, ignore that. The killer used the suits, and now they're tainted, and now the dark and shadow as a metaphor, not real, not legit. It's there, purple. Okay, so yeah, let me know what you guys think about the book. Let me know what you guys think about the cover. I think it's very cool. I'm looking forward to this book. It comes out in June. Very excited. Leave a like if you enjoyed today's video, guys. Hopefully it's made your mind a bit, curious as to what it's going to be about. And I'll see you all next time.